Okay, let's call to order the Town and Palestine meeting for May 17th, 2023. And the first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do a roll call of the members present. Bill?
Yes?
Chris?
Here.
I'm here. And Angie?
Here.
And Brandy is not present. Okay, the first item on the agenda is claims approval, numbers 25-172 to 25-221 as presented to us. Do I hear a motion on those claims?
I'll make a motion to approve claims 25-170 through 172 through 25-221.
Is there a second on that?
I second.
Okay, now these claims are open for discussion.
Where are we at with Commonwealth? I see,
Well, as you see, there's a large amount of money going to Commonwealth.
yeah,
And that is all the ARPA funds.
okay.
Because way back when we got the ARPA funds, we decided to put that towards the expansion of the water treatment, or the wastewater treatment plant. And we're in the design phase, and it behooves us, on my behalf, really, to do it as one, use all those funds as one large sum, so that the reporting of that to the federal reporting people is a little bit easier. So we're in the middle of the design phase, and this does not cover the entire design phase, but this gets us a long way into where we need to be.
Okay.
Did we get a quote on the price for the design phase?
It was like a little over 2 million, I think.
Was
Yeah.
it 1 point? Was it 2?
Well, that depends on, it was broken out in
Yeah,
a
that's-
couple of different
Yeah.
steps, but yes, you did do all that appropriate. That wasn't just being paid.
And we've been getting bills, for the collection systems and stuff like all the work that they've been doing, but they've been coming in at 13,000, 40,000. So it was easier for Yvonne just to write the one check because it's easier for her to.
Plus, there's something odd, because normally you pay that out of the wastewater funds, but ARPA funds have come in and by state or by federal statute have to be put in the town funds. So here we're paying a large chunk of wastewater related expense through a town fund. So it's a little weird, and that's why I wanted it to be all the full amount of the ARPA funds in one chunk for one purpose, as we had decided in the meeting way back when we, how we were going to use that. We wanted the ARPA funds used for the benefit of the most people, which would be through wastewater.
And then are they saying us,
Updates, you mean?
updates as they use this money in
Yes.
that preliminary design, so we know exactly where
Yes.
we're at? And
Yeah, and we'll get updates, as part of that are used, so. And if you want, I can give you a monthly update on that.
Any other questions?
I don't have any.
You don't, Angie?
No.
All those in favor of approving claims 25-172 to 25-221, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Chris said aye. Opposed? Passed 4-0. Okay, the next item on the agenda is public comments. It's 3-minute time limit per person for items on the agenda only. Does anybody want to make a public comment on anything on the agenda? Okay. Next item on the agenda is the adoption of the minutes from the, our last town council meeting, May 3rd. I think we've got it wrong at the top of the minutes.
Why is it on minutes, town council,
Okay.
Wednesday, May the 3rd?
Oh, that's the agenda I'm looking at. That's okay, yeah. Okay, I was gonna say that couldn't be the minutes. Okay, anyway, it's approval of the minutes of our last meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that motion.
It's been approved and second. Is there any changes in the minutes that need to be made? They look good to me. All in favor of approving the minutes for the May 3rd town council meeting, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That passes 4-0. They're approved. Okay, our next item on the agenda is the KGR contract renewal. And Doug has sent us a contract. And we had been working under, I thought we had been working under a contract for $2,500 a month. And this contract raises it to $4,000 a month. And also, we have a bill for last month for $6,412.60. But
Actually, yeah.
But this is the contract we're talking about right now, which is the new contract, which basically says they'll do the legal work for the town for $4,000 a month. Has everybody had a chance to read that contract?
Yeah. Hey, Chris is talking and we can't hear him.
What'd you say, Chris?
We can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Chris is probably muted, yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I'll be honest, I've been out of town. I haven't read that contract and I'm not ready, so
Can you turn his mic back on,
I'm
Bill?
not real sure exactly what all it entails.
You can turn it on.
Basically, the legal agreement we had last year, which actually ended at the end of last year, was for $2,500 a month. We have actually been working under the same agreement, even though that agreement didn't extend it automatically. Up until this month, they were still charging us $2,500 a month. Now we've got a bill from them for $6,412.60 that
I want to interrupt for a second. When I spoke with Doug earlier, he said that would be reduced.
okay,
Correct, Doug?
that's what I say. I didn't know if we wanted to include that in this discussion of this contract or later.
Yeah, Clint, Ted,
$6,400 for board, I'm extra work done.
Well, he gave us an hourly summary, Chris, and
I'm sorry, you were saying, Yvonne, you think that's reduced?
Doug and I spoke on the phone, and Doug said that would be reduced to the old rate, correct, Doug? That for your bill?
yes. So under the old contract, Ted was in charge of billing, so he's been sending all the bills. I think he sent that one out as hourly when it just lapsed and didn't correct that. So we can adjust that down. But you're correct, that was $6,000, over $6,000, billed at $250 an hour, which is well below our regular rate. And so when we came up with the $4,000 flat fee, as the council asked for a flat fee, that was looking back historically to 2021 based on the number of hours we put in, and then looked at our discounted government rate. It was actually higher than $4,000 a month on average. And as you can see, it's even at $250, it was $6,000 last month from the work. But talking with Yvonne and just kind of the needs of the town, we went lower than the $4,200 I initially proposed to Clint and Yvonne and Jim, the subgroup that the council assigned. So that's how we came up with the $4,000 per month.
Our former contract also didn't call out for them to be at all the town council meetings, and this one does. That's another change in this contract from the old.
And I know under the old contract, there was an agreement to attend one of the 2 meetings each month, and that kept the rate down. And I know Randy in particular wanted to have council at every meeting, so I can certainly appreciate that the amount needs to be higher than 2,500. Yvonne, at 4,000 a month, is that?
I try to.
You know what, I'm sorry, I won't put you on the spot with that.
All right.
I'm interested to see what everyone else thinks.
I think that we should probably do our due diligence and maybe see 3 other quotes from other attorneys to see if it's within the same ballpark. Something to compare to.
Well, that's what I think we ought to do, is find something to compare it to, because, I mean, I know he's gonna, he's attend more meetings possibly, but also the hourly rate for, if he attends planning commission meetings and stuff is $300 an hour. And
If I may, the planning commission meetings are included in that flat fee. So I'd be attending, and I have attended, not just planning commission meetings at that $2,500 rate, but I've attended all of the council meetings. I haven't been missing council meetings at your request, so it's not been just the one. The effective rate last month was under $100 per hour. I think Angie just asked about another contractor. Your agreement with them, they're not attorneys. Some of them are engineers. Their hourly rate is well in excess of what I even proposed on the hourly schedule. And I encourage you, if you want to do due diligence, to see what other hourly rates are. I know what other firms are, and this is very competitive, but it's always worth looking into if that's what you want to do.
well, the only thing I've got to say about this is we're halfway through the year, or almost halfway through the year here, and basically an election year when we don't know, I know I'm not going to be on town council, but we don't know who's going to be on town council, and they might have a totally different idea of what to do than we have, and it's a raise, but he's also going to do a little bit more, and we talked to him, and actually, he was actually a little higher than this and came down a little bit. In my opinion, this contract's only good for the next 6 months, and we can see how it works out. I think it's a little high myself, but I don't.
Doug, for a 6-month trial period, would you do 3,500?
We've done a 3-year trial period, and the effective rate that we've been seeing back from the town is well below what our discounted government rate is, and so I came down. I think the 4,200 I initially proposed was still tipping in favor of the town. There's a lot of work to be done. I know the public has suggested, and the council members, while they may not agree on what needs to be done, they agree that a lot of work needs to be done. I think that the amount of work that should be required of me is not going to decrease from what we've seen the last 3 years. And so I still think that this is a benefit to the town. And taking my effective rate lower means the lights don't get turned on at my office, or they get supplemented by somebody else, and that's not fair to the other people. So I think 4,000 is as low as we can go. We can continue to just attend one meeting a month, and I'll actually have to start only attending one meeting a month because I'll need to dedicate time to other clients. But for the rest of the year, I think 4,000 is a fair amount. And of course, as Clint said, we can renegotiate January 1 of 2024. It may be that there's not as much work as we thought, or that you won't need me here as often in the future, and we can readjust then. But for the remainder of the year, I think that's a fair rate.
I guess my question on that planning, number 2, in Article 2, it says the contractor or his associate will meet with the town council of the town of Palestine at their monthly meeting at such other times as they may deemed reasonably necessary by both parties. Now, is that what you're talking about in attending the planning commission meetings and stuff then?
Yes, and I've been at every planning commission meeting that Ron or the council's asked me to be at,
Okay.
even before we raised the rate. So.
If I may interject for just a second. Doug and I spoke earlier this week, and I beat him up pretty hard trying to get him to, do this for less money. And I think after speaking to other court treasurers in other towns and speaking with that I think that this is not necessarily an unfair price. They did give us a monthly flat fee, which I requested just for budgeting purposes, the first budget for this year, so it'll be set. And this will pretty much, it's pretty much guaranteed that we will go over our budget because we have 2 separate bills. We have this monthly bill and then one for litigation. But, when I compared to other court treasurers I spoke to this week to see how much they pay for an attorney in a town approximately the same size as ours, this is fairly the same. If not maybe slightly lower than what at least one of them pays. They renegotiate their contract.
Clint, as you pointed out, this is just through the end of the year.
Right.
I, for one, I'm comfortable with it as written.
Do you want to make a motion, Bill?
I'll make a motion that we sign the legal services agreement with Kroger, Gardis, and Regis as presented in our backup materials.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I have discussion on it. Just because we were given this bill to go off of for this contract. This breakdown for the last bill in April, it has all the hours separated as to what was discussed and why we were billed for it. And there's multiple discussions on here with Councilwoman Baston. I think I added up 13 hours of it. And I wanted to know if Clint approved for all of that. For the discussions with Brandy or discussions in regarding the COVID project.
Well, we really haven't ever set any parameters on that, and we probably need to. And,
Well, their work, sorry to interrupt you, their work parameters, because at the beginning of this year and last year, there was a couple times that I asked our attorneys to look into something, and they said that required a council vote before they would even do that. And that would mean all of this would require a council vote, but I don't recall having it brought to your attention, that's why I was asking if that was something that you were aware of or that you approved as council president.
no, I wasn't aware of this until I got it.
Well, and Angie, I agree that I don't think it's appropriate for any individual council member who is not the council president to reach out to any vendor and incur expenses on behalf of the town.
That's 13 hours of attorney billable time that's on this particular payout.
And so, and Angie, that's 13 hours within 1 monthly period?
This is April, yes.
Well,
I just didn't know what the parameters were, because I know that when I asked for it, it had to be council approved. For the attorney to spend time into looking or investigating any of that, it required council approval. I don't recall this coming out of council approval, so I was just wondering what exactly the parameters were, because it seems kind of selective from where I'm sitting right now. And I just saw this tonight.
Well, we probably need to set those parameters.
well, as an attorney, I can say, if you're in, just on my experience, if you're involved in a hotly contested litigation matter, now I could see there being a lot of time for consulting. And I promise I'm not saying this as being a flippant comment, but 13 hours of legal advice, in my opinion, is more counseling than legal advice. It certainly is, in my opinion, and I would think that there should be a reminder that only the council president can incur fees without a council vote. And Angie is correct. I mean, if we as a council vote and designate somebody, whoever that is, to incur expenses, then that's perfectly fine. But I think 13 hours by an individual council member on any matter, in my opinion, is excessive. And that's not council's fault. And it's,
Well, I guess before we got this bill last month, that never came up because all our stuff was done under
flat fee.
a flat fee, so, see what I mean? So,
And that bill you have will be changed to a flat fee as well,
Yeah.
so
Well,
you're,
and we certainly appreciate that, and, you know, maybe it's just helpful for you to know if you get a call from an individual council member. Now, I mean, the council president, I think we have already authorized that without question, but I think at some point you have to say, I see you at a meeting. And we won't keep you here for 13 hours, I promise.
I would like to see the contract written up differently. I still would like to see 3 other quotes from other attorneys just to see where it lies in this matter. But I think that the fact that this was just done without council approval, when I was told on more than one occasion, when I asked for something, I had to have council approval. Why didn't this go through council approval? So I would like to see something on this contract before this contract's approved, that there's some sort of guidelines that goes across the board for everybody, and not just particular council members.
Again, with a flat fee, number one, I don't even think that's a consideration. I do believe that, you know, $4,000 a month, we're definitely getting our bang for the buck. And, you know, at least me personally, I think that we're receiving tremendous legal advice, better than we had in the past, and I appreciate that. And again, this is for the rest of the year, and that's why I made the motion to approve the contract as presented.
Now, our bond counsel and our legal counsel are all coming from the same place.
I think that's a big benefit.
And I think
Otherwise, if you get a different
that's-
counsel, they're going to be charging a lot of fees to get on the same page.
I just don't think the town's being represented very well with it. being the way that it is right now, but again, 1 of 5, so that's what I have to say about that.
Like I say, Angie, that never came into play until we got this bill last month. You know, I know that Jim and Yvonne and Steve also had some, and you know, stuff that pertained to the Palestine business that and I don't know if Bob did or not, but that stuff that, you know, probably needs to still be done, and I don't want to take that away from any of it.
Well, Yvonne has her own pay line for attorney fee purposes because of previous issues. So
Don't tell Doug that.
okay. So, there's just, I think that this needs to be looked over a little bit more carefully and changes made.
Okay, well,
Right now, it looks like a free-for-all, and it's selective on which council member is going to be given legal counsel and which of them are not. That really bothers me, especially with Brandon at 13 hours, since I'm paying for legal services out of my own pocket right now, because I don't feel like the town's being represented well, so I think that should be looked into. I mean, for 13 hours, out of the 24.9 hours, 13 of that was just off of Brandon and the COVID issue. And that's where she changed her vote from abstaining to actually voting in favor of it. I just think it needs to be looked into. Because there were many things that came up during the COVID project that I asked for it to be looked into, and it was not because they said it needed council approval. This didn't get council approval, but there was extensive work done into it.
like I say, under this contract here, we wouldn't get this hourly fee, so we wouldn't actually see that stuff. I mean, I don't know in your case what the particulars of what happened, but,
Clint, if I may, you're correct that that wouldn't affect the hour or the flat rate fee as far as what you'd see, but to Angie's point, that could affect the overall cost, because if I'm only getting work from you, direction from you, that's going to be less work overall. That means a lot of stuff that the town currently utilizes an attorney for won't be done, and I don't know that that's a good thing, but if you scale back the amount of work that you have me do, my bill will go down as well. But I think you want, if you want the town to run properly, I think you need...
Heads as well.
Well, there's things in the course of business that comes up that we need advice on. I mean, we need to be able to contact Doug and find out how to deal with a situation or a question, or how to write something up or not write something up. So.
Sure. Well, and so I would clarify what I said earlier. I think any department head should be able to contact Doug directly, and you know, for the most part, until it gets, usually, it's included in the contract. It's only when you have something that's extraordinary. But I think as council members, we shouldn't pick up the phone and incur an expense on the town's behalf without either a vote or it being the council president.
well, I agree that we shouldn't have any thing come before the council that we didn't talk about at a town council meeting like we did with the Pacoga project. That's one thing I agree on, because that was never mentioned at a town council meeting before all the paperwork was given to us. So I would like to cut that kind of stuff out of this.
Well, would you like to offer me an explanation as to why when I asked for things to be done by the attorney, it had to be done through council approval, but yet it did not?
Will I?
I mean, what, is there reasoning for this? I mean, when I brought it up at council meetings, it was stated that it had to be council approved before the attorney could even look into it. But this did not come up for council approval, but yet this was 13 hours into it. So how did that happen? And
Well, it obviously happened without council approval.
so what do we do?
We're not paying it, and it's going down to the $2,500. But I just said, in my personal thoughts are, moving forward, if Doug gets a call from any department head, absolutely should accept that and do everything he can to help. But from the council, if it's not the president or something that was voted on and authorized, then I think Doug should say, you call me back after you have council approval.
Okay, I've called Doug and have been told you can't do it without council approval. What I would like to know is how this happened without council approval.
I don't ever recall telling you that, and I think that bill reflects that you and I actually did talk last month for a decent period of time.
What was that call regarding?
What does the bill say, Angie?
I have April's in front of me, I don't have anything in there, but
Nothing says that you and I talked.
Angie, you are looking at the litigation bill, or are you looking at the one that's?
I am looking at general counsel. Okay. I see one for Steve Cole, Bill Newmeyer, multiple RDC, multiple Bakovic, Planning Commission, call with Councilman Baston, Bakovic, research law, food ordinance, long call with D. Baston, Bakovic, finalized mobile food ordinance, call with D. Baston, draft memo regarding conflict of interest in sworn statement, that didn't come through for council approval. Review affidavit, assets, and agenda for tax proposal, review issues regarding food truck ordinance. I don't see anything in here for A Pharma, because when A Pharma asks for anything, it has to be for council approval.
So your testimony is that we don't talk on the phone?
No, we talk
Our
on
cell
the
phone
phone, but if
records
I
won't
ask-
show that?
If we talk on the phone, yes, but when I've asked you to look into something, you say you cannot do that without council approval. You don't put in that time without council approval to go look for that research. I can bring up the council minutes of when that happened, because this was recorded, and it was during a public meeting, which is why I don't do anything behind meetings about public meetings. We can
Okay.
move on. Just
Okay, we
move on
have,
with that.
yeah, we have a motion that was seconded to approve this legal agreement. All those in favor vote by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Passes 3-1. Next item on our agenda is new business, Keller Development Fiscal Plan.
Good evening. My name is Greg Majeski with Keller Development. The fiscal plan that we submitted to the town about 2 weeks ago was with regard to our annexation petition, which was submitted at the same time of our rezoning petition for the property at 3986 South 600 West. From what we were just gonna let that pen go. From what we were advised, the fiscal plan needed to be vetted by the town and confirmed before any action could be taken on annexation. And from my discussion with, prior to this meeting, I understand that a public hearing also has to happen before council, before the annexation can be formally approved. And I'm going to apologize that I just got my wires crossed, because at the time we submitted public notice for the rezoning, we also described the annexation process. But I do understand that the hearing is just before the Plan Commission, who doesn't have authority over annexation. So I understand that we will need to have a public hearing for annexation. However, this evening, we are requesting the council's action on a vote for zoning, which would be conditional with annexation. And I Hope I've explained that process accurately. If not, I'd be happy to hear how it does need to happen. But essentially, we're seeking to be annexed with the zoning that was recommended by the Plan Commission at last month's meeting for the senior apartment complex we are proposing at that location. I'm happy to take any questions about any of the processes or the project in general. It is pretty complicated with a few moving parts, so thank you.
This zoning was given a favorable recommendation by the planning commission to bring, to, when that property is annexed, to come in as R3. There's some things in this fiscal, to start out with, you know what I think about fiscal part, but anyway. In my opinion, this is just to consider the fiscal effects of the annexation and doesn't contain anything that constitute any promises on our part, except to put the R3 zoning in effect for that area. Now, Jim, would you say that was a statement that should be true?
I would say, yeah. I mean,
Because any other exceptions or anything need to be done later on, in my opinion.
yeah, yes.
And there's a couple things in this fiscal report. It says the services of capital improvement nature, including street construction, street lighting, and sewer facilities, water facilities, and storm drainage facilities will be provided to the annexed territory within 3 years after the effective date of annexation. So I agree to all that. But what I don't agree to is that after this annexation takes effect and they put their own streets in, that we are responsible for those streets. And it says in here we are.
Yeah, I would think they would be more private than they would be for
I
public.
believe the fiscal plan states that I don't know if it states in the fiscal plan if our streets are intended to be private. I can tell you that they are intended to be private.
Okay, it says the New Palestine Street Department will be responsible for the maintenance and snow and ice removal of the streets in the annexation area.
It says further in the plan that it doesn't include any public streets. So I think that's just a general statement that would not apply to our specific property.
Yeah, later on it says, under the summary, is what you're talking about. And it says, you know, you will be responsible for the construction of all roads, sewer extensions, and all site storm drainage infrastructure at no cost to the town. So the only problem I have is back there where it says that we'll take the streets over after 3 years.
That's not part
So
of
I'd like that to be stricken from the fiscal plan before I vote for it.
We would agree to that.
And Clint, I have a question because I think I mentioned this in other meetings. I have seen other municipalities, and I can tell you specifically, it's either Whiteland or New Whiteland. I apologize, I don't remember exactly which Whiteland. But I was handling a zoning case in front of that board, and it was made very clear that the petitioner requesting annexation was responsible for the cost to install sewer. And I think under our current ordinances, that may not be the case, and that's a pretty substantial expense. But I know in sewer, right in the New Whiteland, that is the expense that the petitioner pays. So I don't know, you know, if that's something that,
Bill, I think it says we will provide so.
Provide, but that doesn't mean
Yeah.
we pay to
Right.
install
Yeah.
and extend and connect and all that.
Well, it does say in here, the developer will be responsible for the construction of all roads, sewer extensions, and all on-site storm drainage infrastructure at no cost to the town.
But I agree with you.
Yeah, yeah.
That the language that implies that these are going to be public roads, I guess, it won't be added to our inventory.
Right.
And we won't be out of the clock. So,
Those roads would have to be donated and accepted.
accept.
Yeah, we don't want to
And,
donate.
and that doesn't sound like there's any plan to do that. Of course, annexations are, the statute's written broadly.
Yeah.
And oftentimes annexations would include areas that have public streets in them, already established within them. That's not the case here.
Right. And I would say, just generally speaking, for the record, annexing these two parcels makes perfect sense. Absolutely makes perfect sense. Because what happens if they're not annexed into the town, except there's the need for sewer for most developments, but currently, as those properties sit today, there could be development under the county's requirements, which in my opinion are not to the level of the towns. So for that reason, I am 1,000% in favor of annexing these properties.
Okay, so another thing I want to know is this just for informational purposes? The existing zoning for the parcels is residential uses. The proposed zoning for the annexation area is to be R3 to accommodate multifamily housing. Then it says, a special exception for elderly housing will be requested once zoning is in place. Is that just sentence just for information?
We are proposing senior housing, which comes with less parking requirements than traditional apartments. So that is what.
Well, that's
what we
the
would
point
see.
I wanted to bring up. That does not call for less parking in our zoning.
I believe it's
If you go to,
0.8 spaces versus 2 spaces.
no, if you go to, first I've got to be able to get in on my phone here. But if you go to our code, it says that under B, independent and semi-independent living facilities will meet the provisions required for single-family, two-family, or multi-family uses, whichever is applicable in the district in which they are located. So there is no allowance for an independent or semi-independent living facility to cut down on the parking places from our code.
Your special exception for elderly housing does have reduced parking.
I'm
spaces.
reading from our code right here.
Is that, it might be a little different. Is that under the special exception?
Yep. I'm reading from our code right here.
Well, and I want to make sure that
That's,
I'm clear on what is it that we are being requested to vote on this evening.
tonight, in my opinion, we're just requested to vote on the zoning and not on this, but I just want to make sure that this is for informational purposes and not something that we're held to, because the only place that the parking is allowed to be decreased is in a convalescent facility, according to our code.
Well, then you could vote on the R3, making sure that it lines up with our ordinances. And if you're comfortable with our ordinances right there in the
Right.
box back there,
But we're not going into that much detail tonight. It's just the annexation as original.
Right.
yeah.
This is not the annexation.
See, that's because you have to have a public hearing for that, and that's
So
what
what is it that we're supposed to be approving tonight?
Clint, if I can kind of give a background here.
Okay.
So you guys probably recall our last annexation, we ran everything together. Here, Keller wanted to make sure that the zoning approval was in place before they went through with the fiscal plan. I believe Keller or Jim used a consultant to help them through this process. And so public notice was given for the rezone. Under the zoning statute, you have to have a public hearing for rezones. So public notice was given, and it was specifically for that rezone. It was held at the Plan Commission, and they took public comment on that rezone. Once that rezone was recommended, what we've done in the past is through the annexation process, the annexation ordinance contained both the approval of the zoning, the approval of the fiscal plan, and the annexation, and it all happened at once. Here, what happened was it got broken down into rezone. There was notice published under that statute, which requires 10 days notice. Under the annexation statute, though, the council holds that public hearing. You guys have not had a public hearing on annexation.
Right.
The Plan Commission doesn't satisfy that requirement. Additionally, the notice requirement under annexation is actually longer. Normally, it's 60 days. Here, because it's 100% owner, it's only 30 days notice. So public notice still has to go out for a hearing in front of the council on annexation. So we can't decide annexation at this point. What you could decide, the statute allows for you to approve a fiscal plan before annexation. So if you wanted to approve the fiscal plan, you could. You don't have to do that today. We can incorporate that later if you have changes or other concerns. So you don't have to do that today. The thing you could decide, though, is that the Plan Commission has made a recommendation on proposed zoning, so you could approve that zoning recommendation pending annexation. So what that does is gives them comfort that they know if the annexation goes through, that they'll have the zoning that they requested. That special exception has to be applied for later in the process anyway, so Clint, you may have a point. I haven't had a chance to look at that. Again, this is going to run a different route than normal, but that would be something that would be addressed later down the line.
And Doug, if I can ask, at what point does the council take, in the pieces, rezoning, the annexation, but is there, at what stage does the council say the use is what is approved?
Let's do the plan development, right?
Yeah. Mr. President, can I talk not as
Yeah.
a citizen, but as a member of the Planning Commission? We had the Planning Commission staff report, which was done by Deborah Liv, which we hired her to do that. And 5 steps that need to happen is annexation has to happen. The Planning Commission has to rezone from the commercial neighborhood to Palestine residential 3. Then you have to go to Board of Zoning Appeals for the special exceptions, and then it goes to the development plan, which is Jim, and they approve the structure and what they want to build and how they want to build it, and then the building permits are issued. So we didn't give approval to rezone a piece of county land. We can't do that. It's a waste of our time. So we did the recommendation, if you accept the annexation. And like Doug said, you're not accepting and approving annexation on a final product. That doesn't exist right now. So everything you do can go on exceptions, or if this doesn't happen, because we do have, if we annex, we approve it for R3, and this project doesn't go, then we have to approve any future project. So they can't get it R3 and then put in a standard home. So they have to be approved again. So the steps that go through are the 5 steps that I just
Yeah,
read.
I understand that we got a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission, and that, I'm guessing, is why in this fiscal plan, it says the proposed zoning for the annex area is to be R3 to accommodate multifamily housing. Now, so basically, tonight, we're just here to pass this fiscal plan. It doesn't really, even though it calls out in the fiscal plan that the intention is to be R3, that stuff has to come at a later date. So do I hear a motion on passing the fiscal plan?
For purposes of discussion, I'll make a motion that we approve the fiscal plan.
Is there a second? I'll second that.
No, Clint, if I can ask you, is with the items that need to be corrected in the fiscal plan, about the roads being not considered public.
Right.
And maintained by the town, are you comfortable in approving that fiscal plan with the caveat that those changes be made, or do you want to see the changes made and then approve the plan? And I'm just asking.
No, I would approve the plan with those changes. You know, that we know those changes are going to be made. I mean, I don't think that's a trust issue, you know what I mean? Wait.
Those have to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Yeah.
You're talking about the special exemption for the elderly housing and the parking.
That's what my question was there certain things in here was just for informational purposes? And the only thing I see that actually needs to be changed is that we're not going to take over the maintenance of the streets in the annexation area.
And
The other stuff was just like information.
does the council have to approve the fiscal plan, or is it just that we receive it?
You have to adopt it before annexation.
Okay.
So that they want to make sure that, for the public's sake, that you know how you're going to pay for whatever additional land you take in. So it has to be approved before. And that can be contemporaneous. You just can't annex and then figure out how you're going to pay for it months later.
When is this supposed to be done? What your project?
So we will intend to apply for the financing in July, and the earliest we would be able to break ground is about this time next year.
And what about the annexation?
It was our intent to have the annexation approved this evening, but since the public hearing is a separate process, I'm just learning. I understand that can't happen, but if it is possible for council to take a vote on zoning conditional on annexation, we would like to respectfully request that.
Well, I think we need a public hearing for the zoning, don't we?
The public hearing has been held for zoning, so that can be done. That was held at the Plan Commission meeting. There's only one public hearing required for zoning. You're making a conditional, if you were to do that, you would make a conditional approval of the zoning, pending annexation.
Well, if we pass this fiscal plan, that'll include that intention to zone it.
The fiscal plan is just a plan on how you're going to pay for everything, Clint. So it doesn't, they're separate items.
That's what I say, we
So
can
it's
pass, we can
information.
pass this fiscal plan, but it really doesn't have anything to do with the other things that are involved in bringing this into town, except that it's required.
Yeah, you're correct. It's required. Again, in the past, we just done all of them
Yeah.
in one fell swoop, so that you had all your ducks in a row, and we passed it all at once. And so I think Keller is requesting that just for their planning purposes, that the council approve conditional rezoning. I imagine approving the fiscal plan, if you are comfortable with it, would be helpful as well. But ultimately, yes, we still have to have a public hearing on the annexation.
Well, it was moved and seconded to approve the fiscal plan, and under discussion, we have the,
Where exactly is the language about, it needs to be changed? Because I see on page 6, it says we don't have any road or street capital costs.
under street maintenance on page 4,
Thank you.
the last couple sentences.
I see. Thank you. So to clarify my motion is to approve and adopt the fiscal plan with the deletion of the last 2 sentences on page 4 under the heading street maintenance.
I still have a question.
Okay?
So, when will this actually be completed with people moving in? What are we talking?
The absolute earliest would probably be fall of 2026,
Okay.
or fall of 2025.
Yeah. Fall 2025?
That would be the earliest possible, yes.
Okay, and the code, when are they saying their apartments are going to be done, where people are actually going to be moving in?
I have no idea.
When is our wastewater utilities supposed to be done?
It looks like final completion of 11/25. Everything's got to come together at the right time.
Because right now, under the wastewater services, it says the town has adequate capacity at its wastewater treatment plant, and no, we don't. We're already close to capacity, and we just approved departments and no, we do this, so.
We are at capacity, but our plant's able to run at 150% without, so we are in that process with IDEM, so
Are we still using the other wastewater?
that's going to, do this whole new build. That will go offline and go to this plant
When is that supposed to go offline?
during this build process, probably in '24.
If we're not guaranteed. If we're at capacity and it's not completed by the time we're approving all these buildings. That was the only question I had on it, because it says that we had the capacity for it, but technically we don't, right now.
Well, this says 3 year, this actually stipulates 3 years out, we would have capacity for it.
Hopefully.
Or 4 years, I don't know which one that is, but someplace in there.
Well, and we can't address the zoning this evening because, as Ron pointed out, it's not within the town, so we can't change the zoning. I think the only thing that we can do tonight is address the fiscal plan. And again, with that one deletion,
Yeah.
I'm okay with the fiscal plan. I hope that helps as much as we can see.
The thing about infrastructure is, this isn't my opinion, this is my observation. I hate to give my opinion. It's been my observation that people build stuff and then they want the infrastructure to catch up with it.
Yeah.
That's just an observation. And basically, there would be no reason to build a new sewer plant if we didn't anticipate development
Yeah.
or have development coming.
Well, we did update our sewer. It was supposed to be updated and functioning.
Yeah, that's the problem I have with the crystal ball. It said 200 houses over 10 years, and we built 200 in 1 year. So, you can throw those things out the window. But this fiscal plan is something that that's required when you do an annexation. And we pay to have it done, and we have a motion on the table to pass it. Is there any other comments on it?
The study and everything else will come later, correct? For the traffic and it's one of the studying.
I mean,
That's a busy area.
Walmart's got 2,000 parking places up there on Mount Comfort Road.
I'm just saying that's already a busy intersection right there.
I know.
So there's going to be a study on that before we're just approving this fiscal plan.
They discussed that in the planning commission meeting, was moving that driveway as far south as possible because there could be some problems with people coming over that railroad track. Some of them have trouble staying on the ground.
Yeah.
Well, that property will be addressed with something, whether it's a apartment complex, or whether
Right,
it's a, hope to God it's not Chick-fil-A, because they'll drive, 1,000 cars an hour, so I think.
But basically, the only thing we've got before us tonight is the fiscal plan.
May I add one thing, Mr.
Yes.
President? And Doug, please correct me if this is incorrect, but from our understanding, and I know that a formal confirmation cannot happen tonight because the public hearing for annexation has not happened, but because we have submitted the zoning petition to the town. It was under the town's plan commission, and they made a recommendation under the regulations of the town. It was our understanding that the council could still consider the zoning with the process that has already happened. Is that correct?
Yes.
The council could make, the council, obviously, the land has not been annexed, so it's not town property, but the council could make a motion to conditionally approve it as R3 pending annexation. So that says that this is what we intend to do, but we know that it's not town property yet. You could do that if that's the council's prerogative.
But if we approve it as R3 and they don't do it, it's approved as an R3, and are we held to that?
I'm sorry, if they don't do what?
Are we going to be held to an R3 there, then, if this project doesn't go through?
If you make a recommendation that it's R3 and then you annex, it becomes an R3. If they don't do the project, it's still an R3. The town or subsequent owners could ask for it to be rezoned.
Okay.
But or the other option is that you make a recommendation that it's R3, and for whatever reason the annexation doesn't happen, well then it still stays with the county's zoning designation.
Well, let's do the motion we've got for the fiscal plan. All in favor of accepting the annexation fiscal plan, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So the fiscal plan is approved.
With the deletion of those two
With the
sentences.
yes, yes. Now, we actually didn't have anything else on our agenda about that, but there is a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission to make the zoning for this property R3 if it is annexed. Do we want a motion tonight to verify that we would be for that R3 zoning as recommended by the Planning Commission? Okay, I'll make a motion that if this property is annexed, that it comes into town under the R3 zoning. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on it?
The only further discussion is, what we're voting on is, if it's annexed, it would, so it's a conditional recommendation, or a conditional approval, not recommendation, conditional approval, that if annexed, it would come in at R3. And me personally, at this stage, I'm okay with that, because I'm still, and Doug helped me out, at what point does this town council officially say this is the best and highest use, and this is the project that should move forward? Because I don't know that I'm there. And I'm hoping that's probably something that would be flushed out at the annexation hearing and have more people to have input. You know, a few meetings ago, we approved a $62 million apartment complex on the north side of 52. And I have a lot of questions about what level of subsidies or rent control or what other, with this particular project. So, Doug, when do I ask questions about the project-specific questions?
I think you can ask those questions now. Of course, it goes through the project development process that Ron and Jim already spoke to. I think it's appropriate to ask those questions now. Again, this is, as you, I think, appropriately worded, it's a conditional approval. The Plan Commission is an advisory body, and the council has the ultimate authority on zoning. And the annexation statute requires that the council make a zoning determination when they annex. So we shouldn't trick Keller and give them false impressions, but there's always an opportunity during the annexation process if something comes up to say, well, we're going to annex it, but we're going to annex it at whatever other designation. But I think the intention here is to show good faith that this is what you intend to do. So I think that it's appropriate to ask questions if you want. I don't think, again, it's a conditional approval, and then there's the final approval in annexation. So you have an opportunity to voice disdain or to an alternate zoning if you want at that annexation process.
Thank you.
Well, the way I feel about it is we got a favorable recommendation from the planning commission, and they were pretty diligent about their approach to it, and that we aren't approving any of their plans tonight or anything, but we're just saying that my motion was just to say that we'll make it R3 if it is annexed. And I don't have a problem with that, but is there any other comments on it? All those in favor of the motion, vote by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
So we've said that if it is annexed, it'll be under R3. 3-1. Thank you. Next thing on our agenda is department reports. Police Chief Robert Ely.
So if you guys get called from people in the community, we have about 20 officers over at the high school tonight. They're utilizing the new school portion that's not open yet. They're doing tactical training. It's our joint tactical team. So they're out, they're doing maneuvers, learning the school. So we put it out on Facebook, so in case somebody was asked, why are there 20 squad cars over there? Just kind of a heads up what's going on. Also, my two newest officers just finished CIT training, which is crisis intervention training. So that puts all my officers here in Palestine trained in crisis intervention, which is kind of mental health, which I'm very proud of young men. So all officers in New Pal are trained under the crisis intervention. Reached out today to try to find out about the squad car, make the bill, what's going on, where we're at. I got no response yet, so tomorrow we'll probably make a phone call to see where that's going. I just know there's delays, and just hope we don't keep getting pushed back.
Yeah.
Just one week.
30 days.
Yeah. And really, the construction through town, we haven't had major issues. People are behaving pretty well, except for a couple of weeks ago. But other than that, the guys are working hard, it looks like. Steve, if I can talk more about that, but they've had no complaints to us about any traffic, so. Another week and a half of school, so hopefully that takes care of all that problem as well.
Just one chase.
Just one chase, we don't need more. That's all I got.
Thanks, Bob. Jim?
Yeah, Yvonne and myself and Jared, and then Kyle from the sewer plant, we did do the kickoff meeting there with Commonwealth, just to kind of go over where they're at in the project. I have a copy of it, of everything up here, so anytime the council would like to come in and whether they want to look at it or discuss it, I'm more than happy to. One thing I am really excited about is, to get our SRS, we have to do an asset management plan, and, we've had the sewer here for, since the 80s, and I don't think the collection system's ever been accounted for. They've went through every manhole in town. They've assessed it. They've put a price, any kind of repair cost to that. They put a value on everything. And we've kind of implemented that into the GIS system that we had gotten a couple of years ago. So it's kind of coming together. I'm real excited about that. Next Wednesday, Yvonne and I are going to the Civic Circle the county's putting on, and it's going to be about an 8-month scenario there. On May 24th, it's going to be over civic matters. I don't know if you guys got the emails on that, but the foundation's putting on a group, and they'll have speakers, and so it's really going to be kind of a leadership thing for the county. So hopefully we can bounce off ideas with everybody else. So look forward to that.
What else you got, Jim?
That's it.
Steve?
Yeah, all I've got is what everybody's aware of, the NDOT project through town. I think they're moving along pretty good with 88 curb ramps. I spoke with the project superintendent today, and he anticipates that they should be done with curb ramps sometime next week. When they get those done, they're going to start a mill and repave. The patching's already been done, so they're ready for a mill and repave. They're going to do our section of town just to accommodate Summerfest, essentially, so they can have that done and striped and be out of the way. So they're looking at mid-June to have everything done. The milling, repaving, striping, and everything. That's all I got.
Yvonne?
I have two things. I got in the mail this week, your CF1 form, which I'm sure by now you don't remember what that is. You get it once a year. It is for you to reapprove the abatement on Woodland Terrace.
Yeah.
So this is where they early on had to say, hey, we would like some a reduction in tax for the first couple of years. And for that, we promise that we will hire so many people and pay out a minimum of this much money. And then every year to have to prove that we're still on that same track, on that same path. So that is what this is. Originally, they had estimated that they would have additional employees, 32, and salaries of $1.3 million. And actual, they are saying they now have 107 employees and pay out $2.5 million in salaries. So, you need to
They've met
approve
their-
this
they've met their-
and sign it, and then I need to send it to the county. That it's approved.
Okay, do we need to vote on that, since they've met their obligation and they submitted that form to the town?
You might, I think it'd be safest to best,
Okay.
best to do that.
Make a motion that we approve the CF1 form this year for Woodland Terrace.
I second.
Any other discussion on that? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That's approved.
Can I ask one, do we know when does that tax abatement every year?
I think it's 25.
No, well,
20.
we probably need to check that out, because if you get the original form out, it ends in 10 years from when that form was signed, which is 2024.
No.
Now, I don't know what that means as far as the tax year.
This starts from the moment they start moving people in, and that was in 2019.
No, that's not what the agreement was with the town.
The agreement is, you guys agree 100% abatement the first year and 90%.
The agreement was with the town is that it ends in 2024. Now, does it mean the 2024 tax is paid in 2025? I mean, we probably need to get that agreement out.
I can get that agreement out, but
Yeah.
I've looked at that before, longingly waiting for those property taxes to come
Yeah, I
into
know.
their coffers, because whoever approved that, approved it in a way that I personally am not a big fan of.
Yeah, I've never seen another tax abatement like it in my life.
Basically, if you really look at it, they have 90% tax abatement for several years, and this includes the time that now, if you look at the fire department is over here on almost a daily basis, for medical emergencies, and they're getting no money. They're getting 10% of what they should be getting in tax money. So, as are we as the town. In this case, they are far more effective than we are. But it's frustrating to me, but that's where we are. So I will get that out for you, look at that.
Okay.
And maybe if you want that on the next meeting, we can.
Like I say, that would just be something I would ask. Does it actually end at the point that that agreement says it ends, or does it end the next tax year? Or the next year?
We shall read it. And
I think it ends then. 10 years is the limit it could go on.
Okay. Second thing I have is we're, as of yesterday, up to our eyeballs in an audit. We're getting lots of questions, forms to fill out. They're on between 19 through 22, so Jen and I are quite tied up. If you see our door shut, that's probably because we're, trying to upload more paperwork or download more paperwork or answer more questions. So it's going. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's just going to take us away a little bit from other things. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Yvonne. Okay, we want to open up this time for public comments, so anybody that has a public comment on any topic can come forward.
I have two things, and then I'll leave it for Chris, yeah.
Okay.
One is,
Ron?
Ron Wally, I don't even know where it is, 4268 South Woodbridge Lane. I have two things. One is for council. I don't get involved with the money, but I need to know what my procedure would be when I need to ask a legal question, because I always say, is security going to be here, police and counsel, legal counsel, because I'm a strong opinion, there's no reason for any one of us to hold a meeting if we do it wrong. And then we have to redo it, and it gets thrown out, and we're in court. So it's my opinion that legal counsel should be there. At least I'm requesting for my meeting. Again, I don't know the dollar amount, what's fair or what's not.
Well, he said that they will be at the planning commission meeting, so.
Yeah, so if I have, which I have a question on the floor about what Chris is going to talk about, is that I need to know what the procedure is. Somebody can email that to me or not, but I need to send Doug a request, and then he's going to respond to how do we, for this housing. So that's all my comment is that I request it there. I don't want to waste my time or anybody else's time. And the worst thing is we end up in court, which it costs us a ton of money. So, and then the second thing is we have an advisory committee meeting. The planning commission set this up at the last meeting. And this is for, and I'm not going to use names, but it's for new houses being built that are sold direct to investment companies, which consequently end up as rentals. So on that committee is Chris Warnemont, Nancy Owens, Raven Smathers, Jim Robinson, and myself as the chair. Whether I continue as the chair, I don't know, but I'm going to make sure we get the first one off to a good start. And we think that's important, and because we lose control of that. So, and then Chris has a little bit to say.
Thanks, Ron.
Chris Warnemont, 3911 South Cedar Creek Lane. Following what Ron's saying, Ron, I talked to both Raven Smathers and Nancy Owens this afternoon, and they firmed up our time that we talked about. So we're going to have a first meeting next Wednesday night at 6:30. So we're going to be talking about, as Ron mentioned, that issue. The agenda for that meeting is to review this issue. I'm going to bring in that poster board that I brought in back on March 1st and go over the issues that we're seeing with that particular subdivision. And interestingly, I was driving through there today and found a picture, pretty nice home, and this thing is going for $2,500 rent right now. Brand new home, $2,500 a month rent. So it's concerning that there's that much rent. How can someone afford that much rent if they can't afford to buy the house? So that's part of what we're going to be digging into in that meeting. So, so the agenda is going to be review the issue, brainstorm, and discuss some potential actions. Number 3, deciding what those actions are and assign some follow-up tasks as needed. And then number 4 is next steps. So I got the agenda. I'll be getting with, I guess, Jim after the meeting, and we'll talk about how we get that published, about tomorrow, so we get people notice.
And we just have to put it on the door.
Yeah.
We just have to put it on the door. This is a public meeting. We need public input, so that public.
Yeah, so we want to get a good, almost a week notice, so we can get people come if they want to.
We will post it on the door, we can post it on Facebook, on the.
Town page.
Town page, and the library and the post office.
That's good.
Okay.
So those are our normal, all
Okay.
the places we normally.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Can you give me the agenda items?
Yes.
In a minute, so that I can make a proper agenda?
Is there any other,
Yeah.
we have, looks like we have a Boy Scout leader here.
Cub Scout and Boy Scout.
Okay.
I'm Jason Southgate. I'm the Cub Master for the local package for Cub Scouts out of across the Grace Street.
Now, what's your address there, Jason?
My address is 2228 South Briarwood Drive.
We need that for our records. Thank you.
This first meeting I've been to, so.
Okay.
Basically what I'm here for is we're wanting to kick off one of our events that we used to do before COVID came, which is our annual Cub Mobile races, where I'd like to get permission to, we just close down Vintner Lane, the bridge, and basically drive a soapbox car down the hill and have races, fun community event. We're looking, if we can get this approved and done, we're looking at August 12th, probably morning time, anywhere from 8:30 to 12:30.
Does that fall on Saturday or?
Yes, that'd be a Saturday morning.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what time were you thinking again?
8:30 to 12:30.
You did this event like 2 or 3 years in a row, and then.
Yeah, and then COVID hit us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got members of the Hancock County Sheriff's Department's come and they ride, they got their own car that they drive down to, so does the fire department. I don't know if they're gonna do it this year with us, if we can get it approved, but, well, let's plan on it.
I'll make a motion. Bob, what are your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely.
I'll make a motion that we approve the use by the Cub Scouts of Vintner Road from 8:30 to 12:30 on August the 12th. Sounds like a wonderful event. So that's my motion.
I second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thanks, Chris. That passes, so thank you.
Hey, Jason, if you can just make sure you get with myself or Steve closer to the time, so we can coordinate a little bit better.
All right, and we will have hay bales and everything lined up, so safety's our number one priority.
Awesome, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Does anybody else want to give a public comment tonight?
Clint, I have a public comment. Maybe it should be more of a department report, but a legal update for the council. The Trevor Lloyd Jones case, there's a hearing on summary judgment on Monday.
That was one of my public comments.
Yeah. So that hearing will be on.
Council comments.
That hearing will be on Monday. I don't expect we'll hear back from the judge right away, but we should consider scheduling an executive session sometime next month.
How about a prayer request?
So if I can ask for the context of that motion or that case is.
Do we want to wait till our next meeting to schedule that executive session, or our next meeting is actually the 7th think?
I don't imagine we'll have anything back from the court at that time.
That's what I was gonna say, so,
But it may be worthwhile if you guys, if the council wants an update on the status and to consider any strategy that you'd like to direct council to take. You could do it the 7th, but again, I don't think we'll have anything back from the court at that time.
So hopefully summary judgment will be granted, and that'll be the end of it. But, you know, I'm an optimist.
As am I.
so do we need to do anything tonight or wait till the 7th meeting to see how that's going?
We'll need to post notice. We don't need to do anything tonight. I just wanted to give you an update.
Okay. I mean, I don't know what the timeline is for all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that long timeline is for all that stuff.
I'll probably let you know, Clint, next week, and when I get feedback from Adam on how it went, and then we can determine whether or not you want to schedule
Okay.
an executive session.
Okay, if we have any information that we need to discuss in an executive meeting, I guess my question would be, what would be the best day and time to do that in general?
You know, an hour before a council meeting.
Okay. Is that okay with you, Andy? Okay. Okay.
Out of respect for Doug's time, that way he doesn't have to go on
Right.
a special trip. You're welcome, the Frosty Boys open every day.
Yeah.
There was a line today. I didn't stop.
Okay, thanks, Doug. Keep us on top of that, and we're anxiously awaiting for that to end. Or I am. Next is council comments. You got anything, Chris?
Yeah, good.
You're good, okay. Bill?
I have nothing additional, thank you.
Angie?
I have nothing.
Okay, under my, I was wondering what the legal, what was going on with the Trevor case, and we have already answered that. And my other thing is that food truck is still down there that doesn't meet our ordinance, so I was wondering when it was going to be asked to move.
I thought you approved in the last meeting
Now,
that
that was a piece of paper we made. That piece of paper doesn't have anything to do with that ordinance. That's like a piece of paper that you throw out in the gutter.
what, the permit that he issued?
No, he's got the permit. Now, we got an ordinance that needs to be,
Yeah, but I thought after you, I thought you agreed that he would be able to stay for the rest of.
we did pass something like that, but that doesn't have anything to do with the ordinance. So I don't think it matters.
You issued a permit to somebody based on the ordinance that you had in place. And then you changed the ordinance, and then you had a discussion about that together, and you asked that he would be able to finish out his time there as long as the permit.
I know it, but that's not in the ordinance. We have an ordinance. I want to go by the ordinance.
But you did that in a meeting.
Yeah, I think we'd have to check the minutes, like, we voted, because I was the one that made the motion to specific, because we gave the guy a permit, and I didn't want to go and change the ordinance in a manner that would somehow affect the permit that we gave him, and he paid for it. And so I think he was grandfathered until his permit expires, at least that was my understanding. I could be wrong, but
No, I agree we did that. My only contention is that that's like a piece of toilet paper.
I don't think our ordinances are that.
That's not an ordinance. We passed the ordinance, and we've got the ordinance. And that's what needs to be honored, in my opinion.
According to that ordinance, if he backs it up 2 feet, he starts a new clock.
Well, I don't know anything about that. All I know is the ordinance.
That's the way the ordinance, and I tried to fix the ordinance.
You move.
If he moves, he starts a new clock. I will.
Well, he did back it up 2 feet. Backed it up 5 feet. And put an air conditioner in.
If it were to go to court, where would it stand?
If what were to go to
If
court?
this were to go to court, like he's gonna make a stance on this, and we had that other part that went through that they approved that he could stay.
This is a fun one, Angie. So the council passed an ordinance to, well, you guys know what the ordinance is. I don't recall whether or not Bill's motion was a resolution or an ordinance, but the effect is pretty similar. It was a decision by the legislative body to not enforce that ordinance on this individual. Now, Clint's the executive of the town as the town president, and if he gives an executive order to staff to issue an ordinance violation against the ruling of the council, I think that may be weak on the council's part. I don't think that the council would have a good case for enforcement, given that the council took action as the legislative body to give him a pass.
There's your answer. There's your answer.
Well, in my opinion, we need to enforce the ordinance.
I believe the ordinance is in effect against everyone except for the gentleman that the council gave a pass to.
That's not in the ordinance.
I agree.
So we can do whatever needs to be done, thank you. That's all I've got to say.
So is that like just a motion to adjourn?
I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 Thank you, Chris.
We're adjourned.